So now let's go ahead and create a function to update the user. Okay, so let's call it const update user profile. All right, and set this to an async function within the async handler. All right, so within that I'm going to write a function which is asynchronous, which takes in the request response. All right, and now let's create the function. Okay, now I'm going to get the user based on the id which is sent from the front end. All right, so that we'll get from the rec.body dot underscore id. Okay, so that's what we'll be mentioning once we are doing the front end. So let's call this user, and let's await this, because we are going to find based on the some particular value, which is a mongoose method, that is user dot find by id. So this will find based on the particular id. Okay, so find by id, and pass in the request dot body which we will be sending, and that the field name will be called underscore id. All right, so that's done, and let's check if the user actually exists. Okay, so if it did not find any user based on this id, then we are going to throw an error after that if it doesn't find. All right, so let's create the condition. So if user exists, then we want to update the user based on the fields the user has provided. All right, so the user dot name. All right, so that will be equal to the rec dot body dot name. Okay, so if that isn't there, okay, so we are going to keep the same name which is in the database. Okay, so that is user dot name. Okay, so we are going to just check that if the name, if the user provides the particular name, then use that. If not, use the name which is already in the database. Okay, so now we are going to do the same for the email, which is coming from rec.body. Actually, we can destructure this all at once, instead of writing all of this, since it's just few fields, so we don't have to actually do that. So rec.body.email or user.email. All right, and now we need to check for the password. Okay, so this is we need to check it in a very different way, because the password is already hashed, and we need to do all the sorts of comparing and all. So first we need to check if the body has a password. Okay, so if rec dot body dot password. Okay, so if that exists, then the user dot password, okay, will be equal to the rec dot user dot password. All right, so this should be rec dot body. Okay, so the reason we are doing it this way and not like this is because the password in the database is hashed. Okay, so we only want to update the password only if it is only if the user provides it. If not, we are going to keep the same hashed password which is in the database. All right, so that's done, and now let's go ahead and save the instance of the user. All right, so await. Okay, so the user, okay, with this particular user, okay, we have already made some changes. Okay, so in order to save those changes, we have a method in mongoose called save. Okay, so this will go ahead and save the instance, and so finally let's go ahead and send the response dot status. Okay, we can give a status code of 200, which means okay, and we want to send in JSON. Okay, and we let's send in the id. Okay, so the user dot underscore id, then the name. Okay, user dot name, and then the email. Okay, and we are not going to send the password. Okay, so that's done, and let's finally catch if there's any error, like if the user doesn't exist. So else. Okay, so now let's set the status code to 404, which means user not found. Okay, or not found in something general. So throw new error. Okay, and saying user not found. All right, so now let's create a route for that. So let's go to our user routes, and let's call this router dot route. Okay, so this is going to be slash update. Okay, so when that happens, we need to make a put request. Okay, so there are two types of requests to update the some changes in the database. Okay, one is put and one is patch. So put request is when you want to change the entire resource within the database, entire fields. Okay, so that will just erase the previous data and it is going to add in the fresh data. Okay, so whichever we have actually done over here. Okay, so patch is just to update something partially, like if you just want to update the name. Okay, so you just need to type in the name. Since we have handled everything here internally, so we don't have to use a patch request, we can just use a put request. All right, so I'm going to pass in the update user profile. Okay, I guess I didn't export this. Update user profile, and let's auto import it. Okay, so that's done. Now let's test it out. Now let's go to a postman and add a request. I'm going to call it this time it's put request. Okay, put to slash API slash users slash update. Okay, so that's what we called it, update. All right, so that's done, and let's make a put request. Okay, to URL slash API slash users slash update. Okay, so now we need to pass in what are the things that we need to update. Okay, so we can just go to body and this tab. All right, so the key I'm going to first we need to pass in the underscore id. Okay, so this will automatically be set when we are working in the front end. Okay, so we don't have to manually set this underscore id. Okay, so that will be managed by the front end. Okay, so let's fetch someone's id. Okay, so let's go to Mary and grab her id. Okay, so let's copy this. Okay, so here I'm just going to pass in the value. Okay, and the name. Okay, I'm just going to set this to it is Mary Cooper, right? So just say Mary Smith, something like that. Okay, so and I want to right now change the email. Okay, so I'll just say mary1@email.com. Okay, and then the password, and set that to let's say 1234567 this time. All right, so that's done everything, and let's send this. Okay, so there we go, we get our response. And now if we take a look at the database. Okay, or we can just log in and see if we see that okay, so it says that cannot read properties of null underscore id. Okay, so seems like there's a mismatch, so let's have a look. Okay, since we changed the email and password, right, so we need to change that here as well. So I set this to Mary1 and 567, and let's try to log in, and there we go, we get our user which is logged in based on the updated user. Okay, so if I just show you that in MongoDB Compass, so you can see we have successfully changed the name. Okay, and the email and the password which we cannot get to know. And you might have a question that we can also change the value of is admin to true. Okay, so actually technically we can right now in the backend, but later we need to handle this in the front end. Okay, so when a user is making a request, okay, while filling the form, we do not specify any field of is admin. Okay, so at during that time, while in production, we cannot actually set the value of is admin. Okay, so that is actually close to impossible. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. So actually we can also create various methods so that the user cannot update this value. So actually we are not going anything deep into that. We are just going to, like, stick to the basics. Okay, so I'm just going to change this back, okay, to the original one, so you too can if you want. So now basically we have performed all of the CRUD operations. If you have heard of CRUD, that is create, read, update, and delete, which are the four main components when dealing with databases. All right. So we have done all that, and except delete. Okay. Well, that later in the when we are into the admin section, we'll be handling that as well, so that you get to know the full stack workflow between backend and front end, and also working with databases. All right. So now let's go ahead and create a function so that we can log out the user. Okay, so right now we just manually need to delete the cookie within our Postman app. So let's create a function to handle that as well. All right, so I'm just going right below this and creating a function called logout user. Okay, so this will be a get request. Okay, so you don't have to like pass in anything. So logout user and set this again to sync handler. Within that sync function which takes in the request response. You know the drill, you can just go ahead and do that. Alright, so within our Postman app, if you go to a cookies tab, we have this cookie by the name JWT. Okay, so if you just clear the value of this JWT, that means that we are officially logged out. So let's do that actually. Okay, so let's set res.cookie. Okay, and the value of it is called JWT. Okay, so the name should match and the value is just an empty string. Okay, so we just want to clear that, and we just need to, as usual, provide some mandatory options like HTTP only and set that to true. Okay, and then we want to expire. Okay, we want to expire the token immediately. Okay, so expires. Okay, and I'm just going to give this in the form of a date, which is new date, and just pass in the value of 0, which means that it is instantly expire once we make this request. Okay, once we call this function. Okay, and then we need to send in the response res dot status. Okay, that is 200, which means everything is okay, and then pass in some response. Okay, and saying message. Okay, logged out user successfully. Okay, instead we can just say logged out successfully, like that. Okay, so now let's export this logout user. Okay, so let's create a route for that now. Okay, so router.route. Okay, that will be slash logout. Okay, so this will be a get request. So get, and we are going to import the logout user. Okay, so we have auto imported that, and now let's test it out. So go to a Postman and create another request. Okay, so this time is going to be a get request. Okay, so that is going to be get slash API slash users slash logout. Okay, and here as well. Okay, so now let's go ahead and send this. Okay, so now we get the message that is logged out successfully. Now you see we do not have any cookie over here. Okay, which means that we are successfully logged out. So the next video is going to be a little interesting because we are going to add the feature of forgetting password. So if the user forgets his or her password, so that when he clicks on that, it will send an email along with a token. Okay, so with the so that the user with that particular token can change his password, and we are going to also install a third-party library called Node Mailer, so that we can seamlessly send and receive emails. Okay, so we are going to also be dealing with something called mail trap. Okay, so it is just a fake email sender and receiver. Okay, so actually we are right now only in development. Okay, so once we are in production, we can once our application is secure. Okay, so then we can implement sending and receiving emails using Gmail account or something like that. Okay, so let's get started and let's move on to the next video.